Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer. As usual, I'm joined by football writer and broadcaster Dean Jones to dissect all the latest news and gossip from around the Premier League, the EFL and the rest of the world. Hi Dean, another busy week of football, Champions League and Premier League action.
Yeah, you just basically wake up every morning now, don't you, and check your phone just to see what games are going on that day. You can't even plan ahead anymore because there's so much to keep track of. So it's quite a nice feeling. Say, right, what's on today? And just crack on from there.
Exactly. It just seems like it's never-ending football on the TV all the time. We shouldn't complain, really, but yeah, I think these players are going to be complaining with so many matches that they're playing come the end of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, only one place to start today, Dean, and that's Celtic. Neil Lennon has left as manager of Celtic. It's been ongoing for a while, this one. I think it's been in the making for a while since Celtic's disastrous form this season. The much coveted 10 in a row dream has been shattered by Rangers this season. So Neil Lennon leaves Celtic 18 points behind Steven Gerrard's men who have been in relentless form. They have piled the pressure on Celtic this season, but Celtic haven't helped themselves either. We all know about the infamous Dubai trip with the COVID protocols, also some real disappointing results. They've lost 2 Old Firm derbies to Rangers. And then it seems last Sunday's defeat to bottom of the table Ross County was the final straw for the Celtic board. Do you think there was no other choice but Neil Lennon had to leave?
There was no other choice. Yeah, I mean, it's been a dead man walking for what, 5 months?
Yeah.
It's been a long, long time that he's been clinging onto this job, and I think the board have been beyond loyal to him, really. I mean, they've given him every possible opportunity. They clearly wanted him to try and stay in the job until the end of the season, and then they probably would have taken a clear look at it then and gone into a new season with somebody else. But yeah, that defeat is just clearly a bridge too far, and he's gone. Finally, he's gone. So Celtic fans, I'd say like 95% of them, by the look of it, are going to be absolutely delighted that they can now start getting on with the rebuild, really, which has to start straight away. And it's probably a good thing that they're obviously out the title race now. They're way, way behind Rangers. The season to forget, but at least they've now got a few months of this season to start getting ready for next season. I've heard a lot of talk about teams looking at some of their star players. So can they hold on to any of those now? And obviously, who comes in for Lennon full time? John Kennedy is going to get the job temporarily. Does he get the chance full time? Do they go for somebody bigger? We'll have to wait and see. But it's a big job. It's a big job, no doubt about that. But they had to take this decision right now.
Yeah, like you mentioned there, Dean, it's a big rebuilding job for whoever does finally replace Lennon as the Celtic manager. They've just been shocking at the back this season. I think they've been really weak from set pieces, conceding a lot of goals, and they've lost games they never really should have lost to teams like St Mirren, Ross County, and their form in Europe's probably been a big warning sign for the Celtic power brokers as well. While they see their neighbours across the road, Rangers doing so well in the Europa League, I think that's what all Celtic fans are crying out for, is a bit of success in Europe. But yeah, just talking about managers possibly in the hat to replace Neil Lennon, we've got John Kennedy, his assistant. He's going to get the job until the end of the season. He's 5-4 favourite to get it. So he's got an 8-game sort of apprenticeship now to try and prove that he is the man to replace Lennon. Next in the betting comes Eddie Howe at 3-1. He's obviously been very popular with Celtic fans, hoping that Eddie Howe might come up to Glasgow and rebuild this Celtic team, who's obviously out of a job. Eddie Howe, a free agent. Scotland manager Steve Clarke's an interesting option as well. He's 6-1. But again, he's got a big job on his hands this summer with Scotland and the Euros. And then we've got the big names of Rafa Benitez, 9-1. Obviously, Rafa was immediately linked with the job as soon as he left his job in China. So again, he'd be a popular choice among fans. While then we've got Frank Lampard, 10-1. And the interesting one here in the bookies for me is Roy Keane, 16-1. I think we all have enjoyed Roy Keane's punditry, but he's always said he wants to go back into management. Who do you think, Dean, would be the right man for the job?
I'd like to see Roy Keane, but I can't see it. Look, Eddie Howe, I think they've sounded out before now. I'm pretty sure about that they've looked into that one in the past when Lennon has been clinging on for dear life. I'm not convinced it's going to happen at this stage. I think it's interesting that John Kennedy's got this now to the end of the season, it looks like. And I think it is actually a good chance for him to make the job his own. I think he's somebody that is kind of ingrained in the club. like Lennon was. I mean, look, then Lennon spent basically 20 years at Celtic as like players and coach and manager and all the rest of it. So like in the end, maybe that was part of the problem. But I think John Kennedy like completely understands everything. And if he can get a different tune out of those players, I think he's got a good chance of getting it. I don't really see that somebody like Rafa Benitez is a great avenue to go down. You know,
I'm
perhaps.
sure they could afford Rafa, could the Dean?
No, I was going to say, like, you look at the situation that most football clubs are in right now, and like Rafa's pretty much the most expensive manager out there. Like at the moment, like it's not cheap man to get. I don't think that's a path to go down either. So I don't know. I don't know if they're. What I think will probably happen is that new names are going to emerge, and like that list that you've just read out, yeah, that makes sense for right this second. But I'd imagine it's going to change in the coming weeks, and there'll be a few other people creeping into it.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Rangers went down a different line. They took a gamble on Steven Gerrard, and that's paying off right now with the success he's having, not just domestically, but also in Europe as well. So how good would it be to see Roy Keane and Steven Gerrard on the sidelines against each other? That old Liverpool-Man United rivalry, it'd be something to behold.
It'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Like, and the thing is, like, that temptation to go down that route will be there. There's no doubt about that. Like, the club legend is something that's becoming more and more regular now across Europe. You know, even Juventus have thrown it into the ring recently, and with Pirlo going in there, no experience at that level. And so, you know, you look at Celtic, and you know, there's always talk about people like Henrik Larsson and all these kind of things. And like, I wouldn't rule out and eventually going for a club legend. Look, would it be Keane? I don't know. Like, I don't think so. I really don't. But I can see why there might be a slight itch that they're like, oh, but it could get us a lot of press. And you never know. Keane could spark something. Like, he puts a rocket up this team. Who knows what he can do, and who knows also who he could bring in. That's the other thing that they'll be looking at, like who's the manager and what can they bring in. I know that there's been talk as well at Celtic about changing the structure a bit and potentially bringing in a director of football. So I think that will probably have some say in what they do going forward with the manager as well. Right, Keane with a director of football. Let's see.
Box office, that is. So, yeah, I'm not sure that would work too well. But yeah, it seems like Celtic are going down maybe the European format of looking this director of football to come in and take charge of recruitment, because that's been a big thing that's probably cost Neil Lennon his job. The recruitment's been poor, and Rangers have had good recruitment and marching clear to win that title.
Yep, basically that, yep.
So it's one of those ones. But yeah, so going from one disappointing champions to another disappointing champions is Liverpool, the reigning Premier League champions. It's been a bit of a astonishing slump for Jurgen Klopp's men, probably since Christmas. At Christmas time, top of the table, looking well placed to go on and possibly retain their title, but their form since then has been disastrous. I think 17th in the form table, taking just 7 points from their last 9 league games. They've lost their last 4 at Anfield. Obviously, we all know about their much publicised defensive problems, Dean, with injuries, the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Joel Matip, all injured. But I think more worrying for probably Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool fans is the misfiring front three right now. Just struggling to create goals, struggling to score goals. Just looking at some stats here I've seen here, the front three at Anfield, playing at Anfield in 2021, they've had 35 shots, just 7 on target, no goals from open play, just that Mo Salah penalty against Manchester City. Real worry for Liverpool fans possibly would be, what do you do to change this front three? A big rebuild in the summer, or could you possibly lose some of these star players if Liverpool, God forbid, were to miss out in the Champions League, which everybody thought was a given at the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, both of those factors are definitely possible right now. I mean, it's crazy, really. You know, Liverpool fans, when they were last going to Anfield and Anfield was full, they were going for the Premier League title. They missed, obviously, that moment. And by the time they get back into Anfield properly next season, they could be in the Europa League. Like, that's how crazy the turnaround's been at Liverpool. And it is hugely concerning. Ultimately, that front three must be absolutely shattered by now. They've had to play so many games, and look, it's been an advantage for a long time because the fact that none of them have picked up serious injuries has been the reason that they were able to run away with the Premier League last season. There's no doubt about that. Like, they were just on form, bang, 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 goals. This season, look, maybe they're tiring. Also, Jota came in, looked like he'd be a great addition, was able to be that rotator. They could always drop one of the front three out. As soon as he's injured, that's kind of gone. There was Minamino. He was the other guy that you thought might be able to get in that mix. Well, he's gone out to Southampton. He's scoring goals there quite well. Like, maybe that was a mistake. Ultimately, there does have to be somebody else coming to the picture, surely, here, because I don't think these guys can just keep being relied on week after week after week. That's what seems to be the case. Seems to be Bobby Firmino is the one that people want to see a bit more of. I mean, he's the least reliable in terms of numbers. Look, he's obviously hugely important in the job he does in that side, and it's going to be really difficult to find somebody who does that exact job. But if you can't find someone who does that exact role, find a guaranteed goal scorer, surely. Like, that's surely what Liverpool need to do in the summer.
Yeah, I think a new number 9 is probably top of the agenda for Jurgen Klopp and Michael Edwards at Liverpool right now. That's somebody who's going to consistently score 20, 25 goals for them, because they do seem to rely on Mo Salah a lot this season. He's probably been the one of the front three whose numbers, again, have been outstanding. Although he's had a bit of a tail off with just 4 goals in his past 11 Premier League games. I still think he's passed his tally for last season already, Dean. 25 goals in all competitions. So he's flying the flag for that front three right now. As you mentioned, Firmino, just 1 goal in his last 11 Premier League games. Sadio Mane, just 1 goal in his last 8 Premier League games. The thing with Liverpool probably over the last couple of seasons was, if one of the front three wasn't firing, the other 2 normally stepped up to the plate, scored the goals, created goals. But this last couple of months, all 3 of them probably have been misfiring, apart from Salah. And that's been the big issue for Liverpool. And that's why they've dropped so many points, not won so many games. But getting back to that, Dean, is if Liverpool did miss out in the Champions League, is Mo Salah going to stick around at Anfield? That's the big question.
Absolutely is the big question. I mean, look, we can't ignore the fact that Mo Salah's now given 2 interviews in the last few months talking about the ball's in Liverpool's court over his future. He clearly wants a new contract. He's not the priority for a new contract. They've basically got the contract ready for Van Dijk for the end of the season, for when he's ready to return. I don't think we'll see him again this season, but that's kind of the thing that they've got in their pocket, is to throw out there like, look at this, we've got Van Dijk on a new long-term contract. That should please everyone. I think Fabinho is even ahead of Salah, to be honest, in terms of a new contract as well. And then we'll see whether they decide to give Salah the deal that he wants. What kind of money are they willing to give him? I think Liverpool aren't completely convinced that there is the interest in Salah that people are trying to suggest there is. Obviously, like, he hinted at, like to play in La Liga, and Barcelona and Real Madrid links have always kind of been there or thereabouts. I can't see him at Real Madrid. There is potential to see him at Barcelona, but they're in absolute disarray. Like, we're still waiting to see what happens with the presidential campaign. And, the debts at the club are ridiculous. The squad that they've got is a bit of a mess, and the ones that they'd like to offload are really hard to offload because of the contracts that they're on. They're going to struggle to get them out the door. So, even if Messi leaves Barcelona, not completely convinced that they could get Salah through the door. So let's see what opportunities open up for Salah. He will definitely have to weigh things up if Liverpool aren't in the Champions League. There's no doubt about that. And I think the club can't afford to lose him. Like, as you say, he is the one man in that team that never lets you down. Like, he's always Mr. Reliable. He'll always just score you goals. If Salah was to leave this Liverpool team as well, I mean, you've seen what other influential players have done when their absence is apparent. Salah wasn't there. I can't even imagine what Liverpool would be turning into next season. It really is a really key time for them the next few months, how they manage to turn this around.
Yeah, big decisions for Jurgen Klopp to make. We all know that Bayern Munich sort of opened the door for Mo Salah with Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, saying they would open the door for Salah if he became available again. But I think with the COVID pandemic hitting finances so hard in European clubs, not many European clubs could afford Mo Salah right now. You're probably talking well over £100 million for the Egyptian. So there's not many clubs who are willing to spend that right now. So Liverpool need to get their ship in order, really, Dana, and sort of rebuild after this season, as it's been a bit of a reality thing for Jurgen Klopp's men. I know Trent Alexander-Arnold saying that maybe they took the foot off the gas a bit this season, taking things for granted in some games. So big job for Jurgen Klopp to rebuild this team as well. And as we said, a new number 9 to score goals on a regular basis could be their top target in the summer. And one of those targets possibly could be Erling Haaland of Borussia Dortmund. His future is already one of the hottest topics in football, and that's no real big surprise, seeing his goal-scoring exploits for Dortmund as normal in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga. And his agent Mino Raiola's come out saying probably only 4 Premier League teams could afford the Norwegian striker right now. Where does his future lie right now, Dean? A lot of talk of Chelsea see themselves as favoured in this race.
Yeah, I mean, Haaland himself is waiting to see, or trying to help, I should say, Dortmund qualify for Champions League football next season. You know, you look at the talk about Liverpool and their pursuit of Champions League football. Dortmund are almost in exactly the same position because, you know, they kind of fell off a cliff this season. They got rid of their manager, Lucien Favre, and they brought in Edin Terzic as kind of the interim guy to see things through for the rest of the season. And he hasn't had much of a response. I mean, they've just picked up recently, you know, the last week or so. And they've now appointed Marco Rose as their manager to go forward from the end of the season. So they've got that in place to try and show people like Haaland and Sancho, like, this is the path we're going down, you know, kind of stick with us. They do want to keep hold of these players, but realistically, at least one of Sancho and Haaland will go. Haaland has a clause, but that doesn't kick in until 2022. I still think he's gettable. I do think that because of the times we find ourselves in, and, you know, Bundesliga has been as hard hit, if not harder than any of the other major leagues, to be honest. And yeah, if he doesn't make Champions League, he will definitely be looking around to see what offers are on the table. The Premier League is a place he wants to end up. I know that for a fact, but he only wants to go there when it's the right club at the right time. And obviously Real Madrid are interested in him potentially as well in the summer. Chelsea are growing in confidence that they could convince Haaland. Like, they're doing work in the background. They're trying to convince the people around him that their project is worth strong consideration for him if it does come to a decision this summer. Obviously, we've seen the outlay they made in the last transfer window. That was a huge statement of intent. They've obviously changed manager recently, bringing in Tuchel. Chelsea's thinking is that, look, we can leapfrog Liverpool here. Like, Liverpool are in disarray. We're not. We've got big financial backing. We've got a really good team. We've got a great coach. Next season, remember when Liverpool went out and spent a lot of money quickly, and they kind of escalated their pursuit for the title and ended up doing it way quicker than they thought would be possible. That's kind of what Chelsea have got in the thinking right now. And Haaland and a centre-back are the 2 missing pieces, basically. They want a new number 9. They want a new centre-back. And that's what they're going to try and do. But there'll be competition from Man City, competition from Man United, competition from Real Madrid. Liverpool, I'm not even convinced that they'll be able to afford him, to be honest, because they're always talking about how they're struggling financially to get these deals done. You look at the centre-back signings they've done. They've signed Kabak for like £1 million till the end of the season, or Davies for 2 million. Like that's not the kind of intent that you need to show a new 70, 80, 90, whatever he's going to cost £1 million striker. So yeah, I'm not hopeful for Liverpool that they would be at the top of the run-in to get Haaland through the door, to be honest.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Dean, I think the key to this is probably Champions League football. If Chelsea were not to get Champions League football as well, it could be a real struggle for them to sort of encourage Haaland to make the move to Stamford Bridge this summer as well. Manchester City, we all know, striker's been an issue for them this season with the injury problems of Sergio Aguero, who's obviously coming to the end of his contract at the Etihad, and it's seemingly he's talking to clubs from abroad as well, the likes of PSG, Inter and Juventus. So it seems the Argentine could be on his way this summer. So Haaland will be the perfect replacement for him if Pep Guardiola can manage to bring him to Manchester. Well, Manchester United, we all know, have had a long-term interest in the Norwegian as well, with connections with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. So this one's probably going to be the transfer saga of the summer, I think, Haaland's future, Dean, to see where he might end up. But he's such a hot property right now. All the big European superpowers are going to be after his signature. Yeah,
absolutely that. Yeah, I mean, he really is. Like, him and Mbappe are going to be, for the next 10 years, the Messi and Ronaldo, right? Possibly you get João Felix in the mix as well, see how his form goes. But ultimately, these are the 2 guys that we're going to be talking about non-stop. They are different class, and whoever gets Haaland is absolutely guaranteed goals.
Yeah, he definitely comes with the goals, and it would be great to see him in the Premier League very soon as well. Talking of a club who was interested in Haaland, brings us nicely onto Manchester United, who could have a goalkeeping dilemma on their hands this summer. Dean, lots of recent reports suggesting Dean Henderson is growing frustrated with his role at Old Trafford. Reports suggesting that if he's not made number one next season ahead of David De Gea, he might seek a move from United. There's been talk of interest from Spurs, West Ham, and also Borussia Dortmund in the England goalkeeper. Henderson's been waiting patiently for his chance. He's all just mainly been used in cup competitions this team, but surely the pressure is continuing to grow on David De Gea, who continues to make high-profile mistakes. That's going to get Henderson going, that he might get his opportunity. So big decision to be made by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer here, with some suggestions that he might get rid of either De Gea or Henderson. So then it clears the pathway in the goalkeeping front. So Manchester United really need to get this one right if they are to mount a real title challenge next season.
Yeah, I think they've got to be really careful in their decision making here because, you know, Dean Henderson certainly thought he was going to get more opportunities this season than he's actually got. You know, the season before and the impact he made on people was really impressive. And I think he thought he was ready to go there and properly challenge De Gea, and he hasn't really been given the chance to do so. When he has played, no, probably hasn't always done himself justice, but ultimately it's not like De Gea does either. So like he would throw that argument back, I think. United have to get rid of one of Henderson or De Gea at the end of the season. I don't think this can continue for another year. De Gea, obviously, like pretty much the highest earner at the club. So if they can't get rid of him, if they can't find a buyer, they're going to have to just say, right, well, he's going to continue as our number one then. It's not like he's a terrible goalkeeper. Yes, he's error-prone for sure, but he's not terrible. And so I think that's the reason people are starting to lean towards the fact that Henderson might be the casualty here, because I don't see an obvious place for De Gea to end up, to be honest. I don't know if you do, but I don't see a door opening here. Unless, say, Pochettino decides he wants a new goalkeeper at PSG and he can't get Hugo Lloris, like possibly he could go for somebody like De Gea. There's not really many other clubs in there that need him.
No, big talk of Juventus as well for maybe De Gea. Obviously, Buffon's not getting any younger, and Chesney, he's probably an upgrade on Chesney, I think, as well, De Gea. But again, like you just mentioned earlier, Dean, his wages are going to be a massive stumbling block to a lot of these clubs. £375,000 a week. I can't see many teams around Europe willing to spend that on De Gea, especially as his form's been sort of hit and miss probably in the last 18 months as well. So United are in a bit of a sticky situation here. They can't keep David De Gea on the bench with those types of wages, while then Dean Henderson's going to grow more and more frustrated if he's sat on the bench as well. So, yeah, I think one of them's going to have to go this summer. And if I was a betting man, it would probably be Dean Henderson. And to be fair to him, he's given out the right signals that he's not going to sit there and be content on the bench. He wants to go out and play and possibly challenge to become England's number one if he was to move to another club.
Yeah, absolutely. I like his attitude. I completely agree. And I think that's the confidence he gained from last season. I think just shining through. Like, he believes that he should be a number one in the Premier League right now, and he's so confident that he thinks that should be Man United. You know, a team that are right up there second in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's decision time, and I think if United can't find a buyer for De Gea, Henderson will say, look, I've got to go then.
Yeah, it seems pretty inevitable that one of those goalkeepers will end up leaving Old Trafford this summer. Talking of a big few months ahead for Jose Mourinho and his future at Tottenham. The pressure continues to build on the Portuguese. I think I saw a stat saying he's got the worst Premier League record of any Tottenham manager since Juan de Ramos. 9th in the Premier League, Dean, lost 5 of their last 6, and then his comments after that defeat to West Ham last weekend suggesting that he's got the best management methods bar nobody in the world. Just seems that the normal Jose sort of giving his pouting about and bigging himself up again. Julian Nagelsmann, the RB Leipzig manager, seems to be the number one target for Tottenham if Mourinho does end up losing his job. But again, like on transfers and everything, this one might come down to money. Spurs don't really want to sack Mourinho because of his massive outlay. It'll cost him possibly €30 million. So suggesting, what's your take on the latest situation at Tottenham and Mourinho?
I think he's definitely coming under increasing pressure. I think that the margins are so narrow, though, that it doesn't take too much for Tottenham to turn this around. I think that against West Ham. Obviously, they lost 2-1, but easily that could have not been the case. They could have at least got a draw from that. Hitting the woodwork, coming close. Thought second half they were actually pretty decent, to be honest. Gareth Bale's starting to come into form. I think that he's under pressure to give Bale a run out for sure. Start relying on him a bit more, because I think Bale in the last 2, maybe even 3 appearances has shown glimpses that he is getting his sharpness back now and could really be a key player in the final few months of this season. You talk about, the next few months being key to Mourinho, probably next few games, really. I mean, league-wise, they've got Burnley, Fulham, Crystal Palace, and then Arsenal. As a Tottenham fan, you're looking at that and you're like, well, we beat Burnley, surely. We beat Fulham, surely. That they're both right down there. And Crystal Palace are like, they're not in a relegation battle, but they probably should be, because they're pretty poor.
Well, that went at Brighton the other night. So
exactly, yeah. So I think you look at those 3 games going into the Arsenal game, and really you have to fancy yourselves to beat Arsenal as well, if you're Tottenham. So those 4 matches, absolutely key. Obviously, they've got a Europa League match as well, which they should win, given that they're already 4-1 up. But I definitely think that Levy's probably having to think in the back of his head what he does next, because even though he wants to give Mourinho until at least the end of the season, those 4 matches don't go well. You cannot carry on. You just can't. Like, that's just ridiculous. They're already 9th in the league. I can't even imagine where they would be like if they lose those games as well. So that's why we see Julian Nagelsmann emerging as, a person that people are talking about, well, all over the place at the moment.
Yeah, one of the most highly rated young coaches in Europe, Nagelsmann, with the work he's done at Hoffenheim and now our RB Leipzig as well. I think his style of play, Dean, he likes to play attacking football, high intensity. That would be something Spurs fans would cry out for right now, who some have been very unhappy with the style of football under Mourinho.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this has come about not just because Tottenham like Nagelsmann. I mean, they definitely do, and I think that they sounded him out, to be honest, before Mourinho even came into this job. They made a check on him, and he just wasn't available at that time. He is one of the most sought after young coaches in the game, to be honest. And I think even, look, say Zidane lost his job at Madrid, I think they would even be looking towards him potentially just to see if he would be interested. I think he's ready for a big project. I think that his people would have been in touch with intermediaries to check on the Tottenham situation and see whether that might be opening up. I also think that that's why it's been spoken of. So let's see how this progresses. Look, Tottenham also do like Brendan Rodgers. I think that's worth mentioning. Could they get him? I don't know. I'm not convinced that Brendan Rodgers wants to work for Daniel Levy. So we'll have to see that further down the line. But I also do think that Brendan Rodgers might be ready for another job. But let's see. I mean, Leicester right now looking like they're going to get Champions League football, and Tottenham aren't going to have that. So in that sense, you'd have to look at it as a step down. Big decision though, because Nagelsmann will be seen by some fans as a great choice and by some fans as a hipster choice. There's no doubt about that. The 2 sides of the fan base will be split. I think young and old, and traditional and modern. Nagelsmann is without doubt one of the most forward-thinking modern coaches in the game. But there will people say, but what's he won? And like, what big trophies has he got? Like, what's experience has he got of managing the biggest players? Who could he bring to us? They're all the questions that the pessimists would ask.
Yeah, he's only 33, Nagelsmann still, so he's done so much already in his short career as well. But question marks would be over probably his record of winning things so far. He's done a great job at RB Leipzig, turning them into title contenders as well. But I still think this one, if Jose Mourinho was to go on and win the League Cup in the final against Manchester City, or even possibly the Europa League, I think that will save his job and he will stay at Spurs at least. But I think Daniel Levy, the key for him is being consistently in the Champions League like they were under Mauricio Pochettino. And if Mourinho isn't unable to deliver that, I think it's going to probably cost him his job in the end as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead for Mourinho and Spurs. And I'm sure Daniel Levy will be hoping Mourinho can find an upturn in Tottenham's fortunes over the next few weeks. Right, that's us for another week on Touchline Talk. We will be back next week for more news and gossip from around the world of football. Thank you.